Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Homefront Harmony. Today I'm very excited. We talk about getting you access to resources, to information to help you every day. Today's focus is on savings, budgeting, getting out of debt, finances. And I'm excited to welcome to the show today Thomas Racca, and he actually works with Navy Federal Credit Union. Now, you've heard me talk about Navy Federal a lot. But let me tell you who I have in front of you right now. He's a finance expert and he's manager of Navy Federal Credit Union's personal finance management team. The team focuses on financial literacy and providing budgetary guidance to all Navy Federal's members. So as a Navy Federal member, this is available to you. He's been with Navy Federal for nearly 2 decades, which is amazing because he's only 28, so he started when he was 8 years old, but all right. He completed their executive development program in 2014 and has served in his current position for the last 10 years. He's also a graduate of George Mason University and received a BA in psychology. Thomas, welcome to the show.
So glad to be here, Stevie. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Is it Thomas or Tom?
Thomas, please.
Absolutely. You got it. Stevie, anytime. So let's talk about, because a big part, I think, that for anybody, military family or not, is figuring out how to, handle their finances, that financial literacy of it. For you and your experience with military families, can you please tell us about the importance of it and how you and your team have helped some families out with it?
Absolutely. So to start out, one of the concepts that we talk about that are unique to the military families is that they often are having to deal with deployments and PCSing. And these are some unique financial stressors to a military family in addition to all of the other things a young family could go through. So one of the things that we try and tell people to focus on is what behaviors can you do? What behaviors can take a step back? What behaviors can you put into play that can make these stressful times as low stress as possible? So 2 of the things that we really focus on when talking to someone, especially their first couple of times having to make these seismic changes, are look to automate as many bills and day-to-day activities as you can. So when your paychecks are going to come in, rather than worry about, is this bill going to get paid? Is that bill going to get paid? Set everything up on an auto transfer. It's a set it and forget it style of system. And it's really going to make it easier, not only for the individual that's organizing the move or having to deploy overseas, but also for the spouse and the kids that are maybe staying stateside or onshore. And then one other piece, oftentimes we see young families where someone is not necessarily married, but things are in the works, right? And a wedding may be on the horizon. So find an authorized user, a power of attorney for someone that you can truly trust that can keep watch over your accounts while your mind is focused on the mission.
That's a great point with that authorized user, because it is key. The less that they have to worry about, the better for them to be able to focus on what they're doing. And I love that you brought up the whole family, because it's so key to me. I think that sometimes people forget the spouses and the kids. I always joke that my parents would open up a savings account for me with Navy Federal, and I had $25 in it. And as soon as I could, I'd go there. I'd withdraw the entire 25 in all ones, have a thick wallet. My parents are like, come on, we're trying to teach you savings. So I think it's great to have it for all levels and all members of the family. And one of the things I like that you were talking about, prioritizing and figuring out what needs to be paid, how it needs to be paid. Because sometimes when they transition out of service, they gotta kind of relearn and reinvent how they're handling things. And you guys don't abandon them. It's not like they're only with you when they're in service. When they are veterans, they can still, partake and help with that. Do you guys have a plan that you help put in motion for maybe service members and their families as they're transitioning out into the civilian world?
Oh, my goodness. So there are so many changes that are about to happen, really depending on how long you've been in. It can be really difficult. It can be a really tough adjustment. So many of your decisions in the military are made for you on a day-to-day basis, and you have your regularly scheduled promotions, reviews, and all of a sudden those things are a lot more up in the air. So yeah, we have a few tools in place. What I would tell anybody going through a seismic life change like that, first and foremost, make sure that you're looking at what's your financial plan, what is going to be the source of income when you're leaving active duty. And I will tell you, there's a lot of services out there that are aimed specifically at helping out people going into the civilian sector. A couple of them that we've worked with in the past, we actually have done some job placements internally, but there are transition specialists that can help you with moving into the civilian world. You can also look at organizations like Hiring Our Heroes or SkillBridge that can help you with job placement, line up with your MOS and help that be a little bit easier. And then, of course, as with any change, where are you going to live? What are the new bills going to look like? As these discussions pop up, my department at Navy Fed, the Personal Finance Management, is available to all of our members. And you can call in or go online, fill out an information sheet, speak with a certified counselor, and we'll do a detailed review of your income and expenses and point out some opportunities to get your budget in check, point out some opportunities where you may need to cut back spending, or you may have some opportunities to go out and enjoy yourself.
That's awesome. I love that. And I love that you're throwing in there the resources, because I know that Navy Federal Credit Union is also a partner with the Military Spouse Employment Partnership, because my corporate world is a partner with them as well. And I love that, because you guys helping the spouses in their job searches as well is phenomenal to me. So that's wonderful. So let's talk about some good financial habits that military families should try to start developing early on. As we know, it's easier if you start earlier, though most of us tend to wait. So what would you say are some really good financial habits that maybe some military families should start developing?
Yeah. So like I said with one of the earlier questions, the opportunities that go into the military families are often what many young families go through. But I'll tell you an anecdote that always seems to jump out at me. When you go to a military base, especially with our young recruits, what types of vehicles do we see? And 9 times out of 10, right? And it's almost a running gimmick. You're going to see the Challengers, the Chargers, the Mustangs, and it's awesome and it's cool when you go in and you say, I have a steady paycheck. I know I'm going to have the steady paycheck for the next 4 years, 8 years, 12 years, whatever it may be. But the decisions that you're making, especially this early in your career, they stay with you. And one of the best tools that I think that we can try and get people to buy into is this car. While it's really cool and it's really fun to drive, in 6 months, it's just another tool to get you from A to B. And that car payment stays with you. And almost any vehicle you buy, it's going to start to depreciate over time. And that rush, that new car feeling, that tends to go away. But those payments stay with you for years and years, and they start to eat up a big bulk of your discretionary income. So what I always like to tell people is, when you think of your future self, what characteristics do you want to be associated with you? And what kind of group do you want to be affiliated with? Do you want to be someone that is living paycheck to paycheck when you get out of the military or further on in your career? Or do you want to be known as someone that is savings, that is financially thriving, that has a little bit more independence? And you're going to see different groups in the civilian world and the military environments, where people fit into some variation, some degree of saver and spender. But I can tell you a little bit of pain now and getting in the habit of saving that money is going to be big time for your future self. And then, Stevie, I'll say one other thing, just because it's so important for our military folks, as you're trying to set up great habits, take opportunities to look for where you can save money. There are, especially in military towns, there's so many discounts for restaurants, for cell phones. Really take a look at everything that you spend your money on and take some time to ask, is there a discount available? Can you get it with your car insurance? Can you get it with your cell phone provider? Are there military promotion days at local restaurants where you can go in and eat for half price? And all of these savings can add up to some real money over the course of the year. Oh, it's so very
true. My father didn't always research and take advantage of the discounts. My father-in-law knows every one that's available here in Nevada. And there's actually one that he got my parents on, which helps them with the registration for their car. And because my father was a veteran, they actually got a real nice discount on their registration because of the qualification level. So those are great resources, trying to get those out too, because a lot of them just don't know where to look or how to ask. So that's a great point on that aspect. And I think that every time you can get a little discount, that's a good thing. That's just me. I like that. So let's talk. Right. I love it. So let's talk about, because we talked about how sometimes people buy pretty cars, because I've been known to do that in my life. Debt can be a really scary thing. Finances are always an emotional discussion anyway. But when we talk about that, if you are in debt and you're having challenges with the debt, I understand your team actually works with military families, helping them put a plan together to actually get debt free.
Oh, that is something that we do to the tune of about 12 to 15,000 individuals a month. It is incredibly fulfilling, and I'll tell you, we see the same things and we hear the same stories over and over. When I talk to people, what I get really excited about is, rather than speaking in things that you should do, right? You should save money. You should be mindful of where is there opportunity to waste. But rather than giving those big hypotheticals, what I like to do is give some real actionable things that you can do today to start to get your finances in order. So what I tell anybody, what I tell anybody, the first thing that you have got to do is you have to know your numbers. The analogy that I always give, we're just past New Year's. A lot of people set their goals to get back in shape, get their health on track. And they go to the gym, they start cutting calories, they take all these steps. But if you don't have a baseline, if you don't know your body weight, your blood pressure, your cholesterol, your numbers, then you're not really making an informed decision. And the same is so true for your finances. If you don't know exactly how much you have coming in and how much you have going out, and by that I mean every single line item of your budget, how much are you actually spending on eating out in a month? How much are you spending on delivery every month? And you might have an idea, but unless you've sat down with a pen and pencil, paper, and actually tracked it out, I can pretty much guarantee you're off, and you might be off by a sizable chunk. So let me give some things that you can do today to start to get your finances in order. So first off, if you're a family, you and your spouse need to sit down and list out, this is what I have coming in. Tax season is upon us. And while I'm not giving tax advice, if you're getting a big refund, there is an opportunity for that to turn into income throughout the year. So take a look at your paycheck, take a look at your deductions, and try and line it up so that you're not getting a big refund, but you are seeing that money throughout the year, and you're not just loaning the government money with no interest. Right? So you need to know your gross income. You need to know your net income. And then you need to sit down and you need to say, how much am I spending on my fixed costs, my rent or mortgage, my car note, my cell phone, my internet? And then you say, well, what are my variable costs? How much am I spending on Grubhub and DoorDash or going out for drinks on the weekend? Because you need to have whatever your de-stress hobby is, right? There's something for all of us. And then once you have those numbers, if nothing jumps out at you as an opportunity, and most people, when they sit down and they track a month or two worth of data, they're almost always surprised by something. So what are the big rocks that you can lift? Are you spending a substantial amount of your income on a bad habit or on food delivery? And are there opportunities for you to start to cut down on those? So let's talk about some of the most common ones we see. And I think DoorDash and Grubhub, food delivery in general, or eating out is a big one. What I tell people to do is try and make a budget for your fun. But when you're looking at your food shopping for the month, one of the best things you can do is a curbside pickup where you avoid all impulse buying. You do your food, your meal preparation at home. You say, well, this is what we're going to eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner this week. Go in, put it in the cart, tells you exactly what it is, show up, pick it up. It saves you time and it saves you money because those grocery shelves are stocked a certain way for a reason. And that can get even more expensive when you have little ones sitting in the cart while you're walking around the grocery store.
My mom said never do grocery shopping when you're hungry.
And
ever. Don't grocery shop when you're hungry.
Oh my goodness. I love that advice, and I've been hearing that since high school days, which is weird with me being only 28. You would think it's older wisdom than that.
I love it.
Oh, I love that. And look, one other thing, and we kind of touched on it earlier, but when you're looking at every line item in your budget, pick up the phone and call your internet provider, your streaming services, your cell phone, anything that's going out. And again, to our earlier discussion, savings is great. And a lot of people don't know what savings are out there because they're not having the conversations. So just price checking and shopping around for a little bit of a discount from time to time, you'd be surprised how quickly that $10 a month savings on your cell phone plan or your internet provider starts to add up to hundreds and thousands by the end of the year.
That's awesome. I love that. I think that's really sound advice to have in there because it is, you don't realize sometimes, and sometimes you may contact like the cable provider. And I know like here, my husband and I have Cox and we've reached out to them and there've been times when they are having a special or because we've been with them so long, they're willing to, give us a special discount or something like that. But if you don't ask the question, the answer is always no. So it's always good to ask.
No question. And oftentimes just simply picking up the phone and shopping around, you can latch on with a promotional rate. I'll tell you one other thing that's a big life hack, and it seems like it's just a couple of bucks, but adds up. Look at how much time you spend watching television and look at your streaming services. And one of the examples that I love to give is rotate your streaming services month to month. Personally, there was a long time where I carried 6, 7, 8 different services, but I'm only watching 1 or 2 of them in a given month when we get into whatever the show du jour is. So when a new season of something drops on HBO, then go on, get it that month, binge watch everything they have, and when you're done with it, cancel it and move on to the next one. Again, it's when we were younger, that cable bill was that all powerful bill, and it's cable or satellite, and nowadays it's streaming services. I pay more for streaming than I ever did for cable. So there's a good opportunity to save money. And canceling nowadays is very easy. That obstacle that we used to go through to say, oh, we have to call, talk to someone, talk to another person. Now it's go online, a couple of clicks, easy peasy, and you're saving money.
Absolutely. And basically it's just the computer system going, are you sure? Are you sure? Yes, I am.
Yeah. Are you? Yeah. Do you really? Do you really? I saw one that if you cancel, they ask you, do you love your dog? And oh my goodness, they're really making it difficult for you to cancel this. Or like, well, yes, I do, but yeah, some companies are definitely getting creative with it.
Absolutely. There's a funny video that my husband and I watched online, and it was about the tipping. Everywhere you go, the automatic tipping thing. And so the guy goes to pay with a credit card, and the tip comes up and it says $50. The guy's like, $50? I just bought this one little thing here, and everybody's watching him. So he said, no, different amount. And then it pops up, why? Did he not give you the best service? That's not worth it. And it's like, you kind of feel like that sometimes with it, So, oh my gosh. Now, I love that you said to have the spouses sit down together. My parents always sat down and paid the bills together and went through, and it was a routine that they had together that they did. And it helped so that if something happened while my father was out at sea or whatever, my mother knew everything that was happening, what was going on. She could handle, she could do it. And then my sister and I got to see them interact that way. And I think that's actually kind of helpful for the children learning some financial good habits to have in it and to have in the discussion. Now, if someone say their kids are younger and they're looking to start teaching them some of the saving habits and stuff, how do you and your team kind of guide them and help them with that?
Yeah, I love this question. I'll tell you. So we have a partnership down in our Pensacola area called Parent University, and we go in, and it's pretty active in the community. And what we do is we go into a school on a Saturday. And it's aimed at parents, and there's a bunch of different there's job placement and health insurance and discounted and all these things. And we get these parents that come in and they say, no one ever taught me this. No one ever taught me this in school. And these are folks that are 30, 40, 50 years old, and they've never been taught this. And they're so excited to get it. In today's world, last I looked, it was 25 states that do some kind of financial literacy training as part of graduation. And that number is tragically low. But even if our kids are being exposed to it, what kind of reinforcement are they getting at home? And so often these families come in and the kids are saying, oh, well, I know how to balance a checkbook based on what they showed me in school, but they don't know what compound interest is and how some of these things can be miracles or anchors that are holding us down. So here's what I suggest. I know a lot of background to this answer, but here's what I suggest. When you have kids and they're on the younger side, you start out with an allowance tied to chores, so they start to get an idea of financial independence, saving up for things, and working for that money, right? Learning how the real world works. But then as they get older, and this really does vary from child to child, but not only should it be mom and dad sitting down and doing the bills, bring your kids into those discussions. And if you're comfortable, show them what the household bills look like. Show them what the income looks like. Make them an active part of it. We do a lot of work with high schoolers here in our Winchester campus. And part of our presentation to these small groups is, do you know how much certain things cost? How much does a house cost? How much is the average car note? How long does it take you to pay off a credit card with minimum payments? And you'd be amazed how many kids, and I say kids, these are 18-year-olds that are about to enter college or about to enter the workforce. And the disconnect, especially with some of the inflation that we've seen in certain parts of the economy in recent years, The disconnect is staggering. And we owe it to our kids to prepare them for real life to say, if you want a mortgage, this is how much it's going to cost you. This is the cost of rent. This is what a grocery bill looks like for a family of four. And you can show them the basic habits that you are doing within your household. What does savings look like? What are your goals? Do you have a credit card? Is that debt and adding up? And then it makes them part of the discussion when they're asking for the back to school clothes or a vehicle or whatever it is that they're looking for in their life. It makes them an active part of the discussion and understanding the whys of why they're hearing yes or no with their request.
That's brilliant. And I love it because I remember my dad told us he didn't really understand finances when he first got in the Navy and left the house. And he figured because he had checks in his checkbook, he had money. So he could write checks. And then he realized you got to actually have the money in the account that you're writing those checks on. And I mean, I even so much as so I have a friend that their child is in senior year of high school, focusing on studies. So they said, no job, we'll allot you money to do what you need to do. And they were discussing gas, and the child was driving friends around and not getting gas money. And when the conversation came up, they said, well, if you're not getting money from your friends, how are you going to get money to get gas? And they said, well, you give it to me. And the comprehension of the fact that impacts their budget, it wasn't quite there. So I think those conversations are huge. I love that suggestion right there. I also think that helps kids feel respected. Sometimes kids feel like they're kind of pushed to the side, let the adults handle the situation, let's do the thing. Having those conversations with them help them to grow up with knowledge and feel that respect from that. I think that's really huge, especially in military families, because life is so different. Even if you move a lot, yeah, it's different. So that's awesome. I love that.
The kids are going to learn about things in life, one way or the other. They're going to become adults. These things are going to come up in discussion. And like with anything else, do you want them getting their information from social media? Do you want them getting them from their friends? Or do you want them hearing the lessons at home? And for me personally, that at-home lesson, that's my responsibility as a parent.
Absolutely, 100%. And I think that it helps keep you in check as well. I worked in banking at one point in my life, and it was hilarious to me that I could balance other people's checkbooks better than my own. Just because the disconnect to it. And it was just funny to me. But now, because of my experience of doing that, I am so much better at my own finances. So it worked out well. For one of the things that I think is huge when we talk about financial literacy is, spouses, really the educating of them on it so that they understand. Because as you said, if the spouse is deployed, if they are in the process of PSCing, which we all know is a permanent station change, or even if they're transitioning out of service in the civilian life, the spouse needs to be able to align and work with them there. How do you guys kind of educate military spouses in the financial literacy point?
So outside of the steps that we discussed about it being an active partnership within the household, I would encourage people, look for work, look for work that is able to transfer across different duty stations. Oftentimes you will find things around a base, and they're national or international companies. And they'll be able to take a skill set or a particular company job and apply it at different places. If you are looking for just trying to generate more money, there's a lot of opportunities now for side hustles where you might just drive Uber or drive Lyft part-time. It really depends on each individual family. But again, sitting down, looking at your numbers and saying, do we have discretionary income, or are we upside down? And unfortunately, we still do see families that are upside down every single month. And if you don't have the room in your budget to reduce the expenses, sometimes the hard conversation for couples in the military and outside the military is we need to do something to generate more cash flow. And that may be a second job. That may be trying to make a passion of yours generate an income stream. But really, again, it starts with knowing your numbers, knowing where the opportunities lie, having conversations with trusted resources. Again, if you feel like you're lost, you can reach out to your credit union, to your financial institution. There are a lot of tools available to you. And then, something that's important for everyone is, where can I go to boost my knowledge when I have a question in the moment? And Navy Federal has a great resource. It's available to everyone. It's called Making Sense. We can post we can post a link. I'm sure it's somewhere in the show notes, maybe. But it is an awesome opportunity where there are articles, videos, just little tips from experts on everything from how can I generate more income, how can I build an emergency fund, to how can I get out of debt.
I will say I played around. I did a quick video about a week ago. I was on your website and I had pulled up the financial planning page with all the different calculators and all the different options on there. It was scrolling through it because there's just so many items on there that are so helpful for you depending on what you're looking to do. Like we were talking about the buying of the car. What would the cost be? What would the interest rate be? Where am I at on that? Because it does. It kind of surprises you sometimes how quickly stuff adds up in the end, and it's a key to it. I love that you guys have that information just readily available, that it's not something that, anybody can go find it, can read it, can look into it. And I think that's wonderful on that. So very excited that you guys offer that to people. If you have not been to Navy Federal's website, NavyFederal.org, go check it out. They are awesome. Their pages of information is ridiculous, and I love it to death. Now, one thing I did when I was trying to get myself in the habit of saving was I was able to set up on my bank account that after I would get paid a certain amount, I started small, like $25, but would automatically be put into my savings account. And I had done that because my parents would have to do it manually themselves back in the day. And my mom was saying that they'd get a savings build up and they'd have a decent amount in it and be very excited. And then something would break. The car would break down or something would, and they'd pull on the savings and it would upset her. But my dad always said, no. But we got the money to pay for it. We don't have to whip out a credit card to do it. We have the cash to pay for it. I think that was such an extraordinary perspective on it, because it's true. Sometimes the credit's so prevalent nowadays. Half of the reason we get in debt is because it's so easy just to whip the card out and be like, oh, here, go ahead and just, kind of thing to it. What are some best practices you found that you advise people on, especially those if they're worried about debt, when dealing with the credit cards themselves, to kind of help them, I guess, wrangle it in a little bit? It would be the right word.
You are so right that this gets out of hand really fast, especially if you don't know what you're doing. It's really easy to pay with a credit card. And you have $1,000, $2,000, $10,000, and you can say, "Oh, this only cost me a $200, $300 minimum payment. I can make that with no issues at all." And it comes down really quick to a lack of knowledge. And you talk about the calculators being out there. There's calculators for everything, from emergency fund to how long will it take me to pay off this loan. Compound interest. Compound interest is an amazing thing. And for your savings, for your retirement, it's incredible. But if you're carrying a debt month to month, you need to sit down, look at your credit card statement, and realize how much of your payment every month is interest. It's a price allowing you to carry a balance. You're paying for the privilege of owing money. And it certainly is going to come up. There are times where you're going to have a hardship or you're going to get points. But when you find yourself in the situation that it's gotten out of hand, two best methods to tackle it. One of them is called the snowball. One of them is called the avalanche. And I'll give you the short version, right? I love the catchy names. So two different approaches. I'm going to start with the easier one from a behavioral standpoint. And that's the snowball method. You write down all your debts and you start with the lowest balance. Now, let's say you have a $1,000 credit card, a $2,000 credit card, and a $5,000 credit card. You make minimum payments on the higher balance ones, and you power pay that first account down. Every extra dollar that you have in your budget goes to that $1,000 balance. Might take you a month, might take you 6 months, might take you 2 years. But when that account gets paid off, now you start attacking the $3,000 balance or whatever the second highest one is. You start throwing the money at that, minimum payments on your higher things. And the whole point of a snowball is it's going to add up, and all that extra money is going and it's paying off the number of debts faster. And it gives you a real sense of accomplishment saying, hey, I'm actively getting out of debt. And that, from a behavioral standpoint, that's the one that's likely to keep us going. Those are the quick wins that are going to keep us coming back time after time. Now, the avalanche method is completely different. Avalanche says, where are you paying the most interest? And it might be to that highest debt. And so that's where you're throwing the money, because from a logical perspective, that's actually going to save you the most money in the long run. However, we have to look at behavioral tendencies. It takes a long time to get out of debt. It's not ever something that you can get into debt really, really quick. And it might take you years to dig out, but it's worth it. And how do you eat the elephant? One bite at a time. If you have the fortitude to hit the highest interest rate first, regardless of balance, power to you. But I tend to recommend what is going to be a lifelong habit. And the avalanche method tends to be a little harder to stick to.
I can understand that. My old school version, my parents taught me, the credit card goes in a drawer. You don't touch it. It's no longer in your wallet. Can't have it. You don't touch it. And if you have two you're trying to pay off, you pay off the smaller balance one, and then whatever you were paying that one to get that paid off, you add that to the payment to the next card. Once it's paid off, then you add that. You're still making that monthly payment kind of to it. And I've modified it as I've gotten older now, where I'm far more financially secure than I was in my 20s. But if I have credit cards and if I don't pay them off, then I don't get to use them the next month until they're paid off. That's the rule. And mainly that's for Macy's, because I like Macy's a lot. Macy's rule. But it works.
Stevie, I love what you're saying about put them in a drawer. I'll do you one better. I have a friend that freezes them. They literally take a card, encase it in water, put it in the freezer, and you can use the card, but you're going to have to defrost it.
I love that so much. Oh my gosh.
Right?
That's the best. I love that so much. I will say it's interesting though, because like one of the things I have found is there are like credit cards have things that are okay to use if you use them right. So the authorized user on the card, you don't just want to give anybody access because it's yours. So like my husband's on, I had cards when we got together, made him an authorized user on it. He doesn't use the cards. It was just so if needed, it was set up, it had a thing. But on his credit report, because he's on the card, I pay off the card, it reflects on his credit report. And I thought that was a very interesting thing to see, especially coming because I worked really hard to get all my stuff fixed. You know, I had the debt. I did it. I had a lot of fun cars. Yeah. But now I'm a good girl. I still have fun cars, but I can pay for them. that's okay. So this is so awesome. I appreciate you coming, Thomas, for this. Like, you have no idea how much this conversation has been with your guidance and your advice on it, which means you have to come back. Sorry, but you have to come back and we have to do it again. I love it. I love it so much. I want to thank you so much for being a part of us today. We will definitely have you back. We'll try to see if our viewers have some questions they want us to ask you too, so we can get all the answers out there so that they know. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your support of the military families so very much. Thank you for being Navy Federal Credit Union. As the daughter of a Navy man, it makes me very happy. But it was absolute pleasure to have you on here, Thomas, and we can't wait to have you back with us another time. So thank you so much, sir.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much, Stevie.
Absolutely. All right, guys, you know what time it is. It is the time to like, follow, share, subscribe, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. Reach out. Ask us a question if you got it. We will get you the answer to it. We will see you guys next time. Have a great one.